flat-tailed horned lizards are part of a larger group of lizards called horned lizards.
There's different names in different parts of the country for them: horned frogs, horned toads, horned lizards. Horned lizards are fairly small lizards, maybe 5-6 inches long in total length. They have scales, which identifies them as reptiles. They're very flat-bodied and wide compared to other lizards, and unique in that way. The thing that brings us back to the idea of calling them horny toads is they have kind of fat bodies, and they're very sedentary. They don't run around a lot. Within their broad range, there's 13, 14 species, and they occur from southern Canada. They're the northernmost distributed lizard in their family, all the way down to the border of Guatemala in southern Mexico. Some of those species have a fairly broad range. In contrast to that, there are some species that have very narrow ranges.
The flat-tailed horned lizard is distributed in a very narrow range compared to other horned lizard species. It is found within the lower Colorado River subdivision of the Sonoran Desert, and this just basically is the southwestern corner of Arizona and the southeastern corner of California. Its range does extend down into Mexico in some of the dunes that are to the east of the Gulf of California. If you were walking through the desert, you would be lucky to see a flat-tailed horned lizard. It takes many, many man-hours, even if you're looking for flat-tailed horned lizards, to find a single lizard.
Flat-tails have long, thin horns, fringed scales on each side of their bodies, and a dark line down the middle of their back. Their bodies are about 2 to 4 inches long.
If you were to see a flat-tailed horned lizard, it would be nearly indistinguishable in color from the sandy surface or the surface on which you would find it, because they're so cryptically colored. It's fairly likely that it would be sitting still, because they frequently freeze when they're approached by people on foot, and it makes it even harder to see. Something else that they do, both to escape the heat and also just probably to hide, is they can throw a little bit of sand up on their backs, and it makes it even harder to see them. You may just see the horns sticking up, or some other portion of the species' head or body.
There are many, many species of ants that are out here in the desert that flat-tails may eat, but by and large they prefer to eat what we call harvester ants. These are fairly large ants. When eating these ants, they have to process all of these hard parts, the legs, the antennas, the shells. So they have a whole lot of hard parts that have to come through this small animal's digestive system. When you pick up an ant scat and look at it, it looks like a little black egg. And then when you break it apart, all it is are these ant parts. It's all ant heads, ant legs, ant antennas, and various parts of the shells.
Flat-tailed horned lizards face a variety of natural threats in the desert, such as birds, snakes, other lizards, and mammals. Yet the greatest threat to the flat-tailed horned lizard is humans. These and other negative impacts have contributed to a loss of flat-tailed horned lizard habitat. Biologists have been studying these fascinating animals for many years to help inform our decisions about how to protect flat-tailed horned lizards.
There's been considerable concern over the status of the flat-tailed horned lizard since the 70s, when surveys first started for this species. They were difficult to find, as they still are today, but in addition, there has been visible loss of habitat occurring in some portions of the species range. The concern for the species remains high, both within the Fish and Wildlife Service and within the sister agencies that manage the lands on which the species largely occurs. There's a group of approximately 10 agencies that signed a conservation agreement in 1997 to protect flat-tailed horned lizards on the lands that they manage.
Since then, management areas have been established. Off-highway vehicles have been restricted from activity in the management areas. Funds collected from unavoidable negative impacts to flat-tailed horned lizard habitat are used to acquire good habitat elsewhere. Research and range-wide surveys have been conducted, and the agreement is guiding management, research, monitoring, and regulation for the flat-tailed horned lizard. As the agency's work continues, there are a few simple things we can all do to protect the flat-tailed horned lizard. If you're driving or recreating in the desert, stay on existing roadways or designated OHV areas. Animals may be injured or killed by vehicles. Plants grow slowly here. This creosote bush may look small, but it may be over 100 years old. Creosotes may spread by cloning themselves, and a creosote clone in the Yuma Desert was recently aged at 18,000 years old, making it by far the oldest living thing known on Earth. Don't touch, capture, or keep flat-tailed horned lizards as pets. Alterations in the desert rob flat-tails of their homes. When you buy or build a home, look for those with small yards and those that use native vegetation for landscaping. Whether you're a native of the Southwest, a new resident, or a visitor, all agree that the desert is a place of special beauty and mystery. The more we understand about the desert, the closer we look, the more we discover that these arid lands are fragile and full of life. These are your neighbors too. They're part of the desert world, and you can help to make sure that their world is never lost.
Well, that's our show for tonight. If you'd like any information on anything you've seen here, please visit our website at azgft.gov. For producers Carol Lind and Gary Schaefer, I'm your host Ian Satter. We'll see you next time.